Hello everyone, welcome to the second talk of disease information series. So today we are going to talk about PUD, peptic ulcer disease. Again, I welcome back our panel members, Dr. Raghubab Raju, Dr. Santosh and Dr. Ali.
Hello, sir.
Thanks for coming, sir.
Hi,
Today
thank
we'll be
you.
discussing about most widely seen disease, okay, and the most discomfort causing disease. So it is PUD.
Yes.
So we'll start with Raghu sir. First of all, when we see all these patients, okay, so there are different words being used. What is the actual definition of peptic ulcer disease?
Sir, it's as simple as that, sir. So we all know what is ulcer means. Ulcer is nothing but a sore which causes severe pain because of the rupture on the mucus layer. So we all know that we have several wounds which happens in our mouth. So similar wound, if it happens in the GI tract, generally we call that as peptic ulcer disease. So in that we have two types. So one we call it as gastric ulcers, and second thing we call it as duodenal ulcers.
Right.
So the other name which we have is we simply call them as stomach ulcers. So most of these ulcers are because of H. pylori, which is almost 90% of duodenal ulcers what we are talking today is because of that H. pylori, and almost 70% are because 70% of gastric ulcers are because of H. pylori. So simply it is an ulcer which is seen in the stomach.
Right. So what you're saying is it is an excavation, so or it is a digging of this particular mucosa, and it sometimes extends to the submucosal layer.
Yes.
And there may be form of a ulcer or just wound-like structure what we can see. Secondly, sir, I would like to ask Santosh sir. So when we talk to patients, so we generally hear I have a gastric trouble.
Yeah.
Okay, so is that gastric trouble same as that of peptic ulcer disease?
No. When we're talking about gastric trouble, it includes a lot of things. The gastric trouble can be due to acidity, or it can be due to constipation, or it can be due to some food poisoning, or it can be due to other conditions like pancreatitis or any kind of ulcers. The gastric trouble can be due to many reasons. But when we are talking about peptic ulcer disease, it has some specific characteristic features like presence of painful sores or ulcers in the lining of stomach, or that initial parts of the small intestine like duodenum, which we are talking about. So we have a specific characteristic feature in case of PUD, presence of ulcers. So both are not same. Gastric trouble is different from a PUD, but yes, PUD means definitely we'll have gastric trouble. Yes.
Sir, Ali sir, so is this peptic ulcer disease fatal?
Sir, it's a very confusing question.
Right.
The answer is yes and no, both are right. How means mostly in general it's no, it's not fatal, but as the body has some rare conditions, these may cause fatal conditions, especially when this ulcer is bleeding. It may leads to mortality. If we see the statistics, we can say that this gastric ulcer has caused 1.1% mortality rate, and the duodenal ulcer had caused 0.9% mortality rate. So it's very low. So in general, we say that it is not fatal, but sometimes it's fatal. It depends upon the patient condition.
Right. So what you're saying is it is a disease which can decrease the quality of life majorly.
Yes, sir.
And very less number of patients it may cause death.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Bapraju sir, if a patient has this PUD, how the patient will express, or what are the symptoms he will be expressing?
Okay. So generally in some patients we will not see any type of symptoms. So that condition we particularly call it as silent ulcers. So where we will not see. But most of the patients generally exhibit symptoms which includes like abdominal pain, which is very particular with the upper part. So upper abdominal pain along with some nausea and vomiting, which is commonly seen. Apart of that, we also see some stomach pain, bleaching and etc. And in rare cases where it is going to turn into fatal, generally we also see blood in the stools. So which is also a condition where we need to take certain precautions or take immediate actions for preventing the progression of the disease.
So you're saying there may be a lot of types the patient may express the symptoms
Yes,
as. Okay, what may be the major causes of this disease, sir?
Yes, we can relate this question to my earlier question. Like, is gastric trouble is related to PUD? Because why I'm saying this is, many people used to think that they are getting this ulceration feeling because of taking certain foods or because of stress in majority of the cases, but it is not true. The research studies also show there are two main reasons for this peptic ulcer disease. There are two main causes, we can simply call it like. Number one, Helicobacter pylori infection, and number two, long usage of pain relieving medications like NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory agents or drugs, we can call it like. These two are the major causes for getting this PUD.
Okay. Sir, if we want to diagnose that it is PUD and we want to confirm in a patient that it is peptic ulcer disease, what are the diagnostic methods?
It usually depends upon the signs and symptoms which the patient shows. Like he's saying heartburn, stomach burn, gastric pain. If he's saying like this of symptoms, so we have to confirm whether these symptoms are relating to peptic ulcer disease or any other disease.
Right.
So if it is showing to peptic ulcer disease, then we are going for further lab investigations. So first of all, as Santosh sir said, presence of Helicobacter pylori, we have to find out. So it can be find out by endoscopic methods and non-endoscopic methods. So endoscopic methods, like we have to insert a tube. Later on we have to confirmation by camera seeing only. And by non-endoscopic methods we have to conduct like barium test. We have to do that. So from that we can ammonia test also is available. So if this test is positive, then we can say that the causative agent is Helicobacter pylori. Or if it is not Helicobacter pylori, then we can also go for imaging studies like ultrasound or CT scans. By that we can confirm that it is a peptic ulcer disease. Presence of ulcers is shown.
So as you are saying, endoscopy methods are one of the standard methods to find out. As Ali sir was saying about diagnostic methods, do we have to rule out anything, or before confirming it is peptic ulcer disease, should we look into any conditions and rule out few conditions to say that this is PUD, sir?
Exactly, sir. It is very important to rule out the certain conditions which link with the symptoms of PUD, because we have some life-threatening conditions like myocardial infarction or heart attack. So where most of the symptoms of heart attack and symptoms of PUD matches with each other. The only thing which we can do or which we can rule out whether it is PUD or not is by using a simple antacid test, where we generally give antacids for the patient, and if the pain is relieved, generally that condition we call it as PUD. And also that antacids will not relieve pain in case of myocardial infarction. So not only life-threatening conditions, but also certain conditions like gastritis, cholecystitis, and etc. will also have the similar conditions or similar symptoms what we see in peptic ulcer disease. So definitely we need to rule out certain pancreatitis, gastritis, gastric cancer and cholecystitis which comes in this line.
Okay. Sir, once we confirm that it is PUD, what could be the standard therapy?
Yes, when we are talking about therapy, it is very important factor to look at the causative thing, like why we got this disease. That is most important in order to start a therapy, right? So earlier I told Helicobacter pylori is one thing, and NSAIDs. These two are the major causative factors. So before going into standard therapy, we have to see, okay, disease is caused due to this, so we have to start with antibiotics. Disease is caused due to NSAIDs, so we have to stop taking NSAIDs initially, then or we can shift to safer NSAIDs, and along with that we have to use some proton pump inhibitors in order to reduce the effects which is causing by NSAIDs. So like this we have to have treatment approach, a standard therapy. Generally we have 4 therapies, but in general in use we are using 3 therapies, like proton pump based in 3 drug regimen is there, which is based on PPI, and apart from that we have quadruple therapy which is based on bismuth, and apart from that we have sequential therapy. These 3 are the standard regimens that we are generally using.
Yes, PUD.
Yes.
Right. So he was talking about standard therapy, sir. But generally in advertisements and all, so we'll be having different animations showing like Eno Gelusil, etc. are being used. What actually are these Eno and Gelusil?
Actually, ads plays a vital role in the lives. And the social media, this ads, and they usually impart their products. If we see the composition of Gelusil, it's just an neutralizing agents, acid neutralizing agents, and anti-gas. When we came to the it consists of salts like sodium bicarbonate and citric acid. It's just a salt which neutralizes also. Actually, if we see the studies, it have give temporary relief for that period, for a 1 hour and half an hour. If you are in function, like it's shown in TV, if you are in a function, if you take half an hour will be relieved, but after that same pattern will symptoms will reappear. So standard pharmacological treatment is required. If you see the studies also, they have compared Gelusil with ranitidine. So one of the acid neutralizing pharmacological agent. So in that, effectiveness of ranitidine is more when compared to Gelusil. It have relieved gastric ulcers about 60%, whereas Gelusil has relieved only about 33%. If you come to the duodenal ulcer, it have relieved about 67%, and whereas Gelusil is about only 55%. Right. So our pharmacological treatment is at most important when compared to this Eno and Gelusil products.
Right. So these can relieve symptoms to some extent, but these cannot be used as therapy continuously. So
it will not cure.
Just neutralizing agents.
Yes.
Sir, coming to this standard therapy, as Santosh sir was saying, there is a triple therapy and quadruple therapy. So what exactly are these?
Sir, as told previously, most of these ulcers are because of H. pylori, which is a bacteria. So we need to treat that bacteria using a strong type of regimen. And most of the agencies of US and Europe nations have agreed with a regimen which we call it as triple regimen and quadruple regimen, which is a composition of antibiotic and a proton pump inhibitor. So these two regimens are widely used for the control of peptic ulcer disease. So in this triple regimen, we have a proton pump inhibitor added with two antibiotics. So mostly we will add clarithromycin and amoxicillin. And if the patient is having any allergies towards penicillin, generally we will replace amoxicillin with metronidazole. So these two are the triple regimen options which we use for the treatment. So a part of this triple regimen, we have one more regimen which we call it as bismuth based quadruple regimen, where we'll have bismuth subsalicylate along with metronidazole and tetracycline added with an PPI. So we'll add PPI with these three antibiotics, and PPI can be replaced with H2 receptor blocker, which is other class of drug which acts similar to this proton pump inhibitors. So a part of this we use rarely one more regimen which we call it as sequential therapy. So in this sequential therapy we add amoxicillin, clarithromycin and metronidazole to an PPI. So this is used in the last phase where all this quadruple therapy and triple therapy does not work in the patient.
Right. So we are using antibiotics for eradication of H. pylori.
Yes.
And to control peptic ulcer disease or secretion, to decrease or use as anti-secretory, we are using an antihistamine or a PPI. So once we are understanding this therapy,
Yes.
apart from this pharmacological treatment, so do we have any counseling points to be discussed with the patients?
Yes, absolutely. Because here, in case of PUD, how much ever effort the drugs are playing a key role, the same effort should be from the patient side also in case of non-pharmacological therapy or patient, the things that he needed to take care of. First, primarily, the patient should understand what is the disease doing to his body or to her body. The stomach lining, it is getting inflamed or it is getting ruptured. That point should be known to the patient. Then only whatever the foods he's taking, he'll be taken care of. He'll start reducing the spices, or he'll start reducing intake of more coffee or caffeinated products, etc. So such things should be told to the patient. That is one primary thing. And second thing, we have to make sure that if the patient is suffering with any other comorbidities like rheumatoid arthritis or osteoarthritis, in which we cannot avoid NSAIDs, we cannot avoid using NSAIDs. They have to use NSAIDs. If they have NSAID induced ulcers, what we have to do? So they need to be counseled that you have to use PPIs continuously. There is no other alternative, because gastric lining rupture is very much, we need to take care of. That thing we need to counsel to the patient. And other things, like if at all, like Baburaj sir told, if they have any allergies, they have to taken care of. They have to intimate to the physician, because here we are using antibiotics along with PPIs. That is where they have to inform to the physician. And apart from that, when we are using antibiotics here, because this is a treatment part which is carried out for 1 to 2 months, even in some cases 4 months also, in some cases very severe cases. So here adherence is important, particularly in case of antibiotics. Some people will start using only for 10 days and later on they will stop using antibiotics. It indirectly develop resistance to H. pylori. So again, the disease regression, the decrease of the severity will again tends to, we do not reach that. So that thing we have to tell to the patient.
Right.
These are some of the things that we can counsel to the patients.
Right, sir. So once they are taking their prescription, they'll be counseled about different points what Santosh sir was saying. So can we also stress upon some of the non-pharmacological therapy which can be discussed with the patient?
Yeah, actually there is no specific therapy for peptic ulcer disease non-pharmacologically in the point of view, but we can suggest so by avoiding the causative agents like taking alcohol. The world always takes alcohol in most of the occasions, so it's better to avoid alcohol or limit intake. And next is spicy foods, especially Indian and Thai people. They can't live without spicy foods. Anywhere
we cannot really avoid.
So spicy foods, avoiding the spicy foods, it may initiate the gastric secretions. That's why we have to avoid it. And there should some of the studies says green tea is somewhat beneficial, but not in the early morning. And some studies says black tea is also somewhat beneficial in curing, but they have to limit caffeine to at most 200 mg per day, not more than that. And some studies says potato, but you will put on weight. You have to limit its intake also, and so you have to avoid most of the dried fried fruits. Fried foods you have to avoid, deep fried fruits, so that by this you can control to an extent for non-pharmacological. There is no particular food diet or diet or something like that which you have to follow during this peptic ulcer disease. That's all.
Right, with all these points we are being discussing. So to conclude, we have discussed about what is PUD, how to diagnose it, so what are the standard therapies, so what we can discuss with the patient, what are the counseling points, okay, any non-pharmacological therapy. So with awareness and also proper guidance, okay, and adhering to the prescription, okay, so may help in decreasing or at least to manage this peptic ulcer disease.
Yes.
With this, I close this talk too. You can see the link in the description, and second video can be seen in the description. Thank you.
Thank you.